the exasperating story of the French treasure hunt to come. 14 years on from publishing the clues, nobody has dug up La Chouette d'Or, the £100,000 jewel-encrusted owl buried by treasure hunter Max Valentin. If any of you are still with us after that, and I know that some of you will be setting off for France immediately with the trowel, but why not be polite and stay to the end of the programme and listen to the inheritance track choices of Annie Rimmer. All that, and John McCarthy has news of excess baggage.
If indeed I'll be here for you. Good morning. I think I might go after this golden owl as well. It sounds too exciting.
£100,000,
it's got to be good, isn't it? Today we're off to, not to France, but to the Republic of Congo, commonly called Congo-Brazzaville. Not yet a tourist destination, lacking any real infrastructure in the aftermath of various civil wars, but I'll be hearing about the landscape, the wildlife and people from two women who've travelled extensively in the country, and I'll be talking to the man who set up a company which pairs unsighted and people with sighted travelling companions. What makes these teams work? Where do they go? And what do they do? That'll be excess baggage just after 10.
Thank you. Amanda has sent an email saying, I was just wondering when CERN are planning to turn their new collider on. If it's any time next week, then maybe I don't need to worry about our Ofsted inspection. Nitin, in the 1980s, were you gripped with treasure hunt fever when Kit Williams' Masquerade book was published?
I remember it was, I just thought of it as a scam, to be honest, to sell a lot of books, because it's, but I mean, I wondered at the time whether this thing actually existed, which you were saying earlier on,
it was found.
It was found. So I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to sell a lot of books, it'd be quite a clever little device, wouldn't it?
Very cynical man. The golden hair was found in 1982 by a mysterious businessman calling himself Ken Thomas, but it did turn out that he may have enlisted the help of Kit Williams' ex-girlfriend in finding the treasure in a Bedfordshire park. Across the channel, though, it's been 14 years since a similar treasure hunt was started by Max Valentin. He buried a bejewelled owl worth over £100,000 somewhere in the vastness that is France, but he made the clues so tricky it has never been found. Max came into one of our studios in France, I can't tell you more than that, and explained how the owl hunt started.
I worked for a communication company, and my boss at the time said, will you please organize, we call this in French, rallye surprise, sort of gathering where people have to find a place where to go using clues. And then I got the idea and saying, why not trying to launch a treasure hunt through a book? And that's how it started. That was in the late 70s, yes.
Tell us about how you then decided on the clues, because this has been the undoing, really, of the treasure hunt, hasn't it? Because they're so good.
The clues. The way one thinks about how to build clues, it's an intellectual process. It just comes like this, you know. What I did was, of course, building the clues and then building a misleading track through the clues. That is that there is no treasure hunt without misleading track. When you want to go, let's say, from Birmingham to London, and you take a little country road, and suddenly you arrive at the crossroad, and in front of you you see a motorway. You are going to take the motorway thinking that obviously this motorway will lead you to London. In fact, it's wrong. You should have taken the little country road on the right-hand side and not the motorway. But everybody takes the motorway.
Are there some people, though, who have actually taken the country road and they've almost got to London, but they've just dug in the wrong part of London?
Some have certainly taken the little narrow road, but they haven't followed it far enough. They came back and took the motorway again. So that's the problem.
Yeah, well, the motorways are tempting.
It's a temptation. It's a temptation to take the motorway, and everybody falls into this trap.
I'm going to try the country road myself. How many clues are there?
There are 11, and a 12th which is hidden in the 11 first ones.
Right. When you went to bury the token, presumably you had to make sure that nobody saw you doing it, or, you know, you didn't leave any kind of accidental clues yourself.
That's right, yes. I did it between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Didn't you bump into somebody, though? I mean, it's an unlikely time of the night to bump into somebody.
Yes, there was a guy searching for his dog called Dracula. But that wasn't exactly at the spot where the token has been buried.
But didn't quite a lot of people then try and track down anybody who had a dog called Dracula to just try and get in the right kind of area of France, basically?
Yes, yes. They tried using vets to try to find all the owners of dogs called Dracula in France, and which didn't work out.
Is Dracula a very common name for dogs in France?
No, it isn't. It's not common at all. It's a little bit silly, actually, but I don't know how many dogs are called Dracula in France, but there mustn't be a lot of them.
I mean, we did have a thing in this country with Kit Williams and his masquerade, for sure. I mean, that only took about 2.5 years to find. How many years has your owl been buried for now?
14.
Okay.
14. World record, which I'm not proud about it, to be quite honest. I would have preferred the owl to be found in, let's say, 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
So tell us a little bit about how it's affected your life over those 14 years. You had this enormous kind of wallop of publicity at the beginning, but I mean, then did people kind of forget about it?
No, never. I mean, I actually answered the questions for the Minitel from 93 up to the year 2000. I answered 120,000 questions. So you can imagine I spent my nights and weekends answering questions. And at the end, it became a burden, and I stopped doing it.
And Minitel is a kind of pre-internet form of communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how much information were you giving all these people, and what kind of things were they asking you?
Oh, all kind of questions. I mean, a lot of those questions I couldn't answer because they asked me for additional clues. But everything was asked.
Yeah.
Every question was asked.
And did people offer you some rather strange things to try and get more information out of you?
Oh, yes, I got proposals from money. People who wanted really to bribe me. I mean,
how much did they offer you?
Up to 1,300,000.
That's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yes, it's a lot, yes.
Surely you were tempted, Max. I mean, you know, let's say in the 11th year
Never.
when you were still answering thousands of queries way into the night, didn't you just think,
no, never, because my reputation is worth more than 1,300,000 francs.
But nobody would ever know. I mean, I wouldn't know if somebody had been told where it was and dug it up. You'd go on, you wouldn't really ruin it for anybody else.
No, I would never do a thing like this. No, that's too dangerous. That's a thing I wouldn't do.
And are there some people who've taken it unbelievably seriously? You know, they've kind of turned it almost into a job.
Yes. Personally, I found this sad because it's a game. It's not a job. It's not something you should take too seriously. It's a game.
How far have some people gone in order to actually try and find the owl? I mean, has there been an awful lot of digging in rather inappropriate places across France?
Yes. Oh, there were some funny stories. I mean, a guy went to the railway station in Azay-le-Rideau and started smashing the concrete with a pick because he thought the owl was buried in a railway station. Another one was convinced it was in a bank. Crazy, but they believed it. Can you imagine?
It would be an unlikely place to put it, though, wouldn't it? I mean, presumably the owl is somewhere where it would be okay to go and dig it up.
Of course. But there was some other incidents. There was a guy, he actually burnt down a chapel in Vaux-en-Velin. And 2 days later, he burned it down because he was convinced the owl was buried in the chapel and was booby-trapped. So he set the chapel on fire. And 2 days later, he put a bomb in another chapel with a little note saying, I made a mistake 2 days ago. The owl is in this chapel. Can you imagine? They had to call the police to defuse the bomb. Absolutely crazy.
But after something like that, I mean, don't you think it's time to say enough's enough? I mean, there are some people who've just taken this way too far.
Yes, but there's nothing I can do about it.
I can't
stop it.
You could tell them where it is.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And the guy was a nutcase. I mean, that was confirmed by the police. He was crazy.
Are you sure that the owl is actually in the place that you buried it in?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you go and check from time to time?
Yes, of course.
Do you ever worry that you're being followed?
Well, I have a way to check it without being too... I don't dig it out to check it. I can't tell you more.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult trying to have a very honest conversation about this when you can't give too much away. I'm not even sure that your real name is Max, is it?
It isn't. Max is not my real name.
Okay. Obviously you can't tell me what your real name is.
No, I can't.
And presumably your close friends know it's you, actually.
Yes, close friends do, yes. But at the beginning, they didn't know. And amongst my friends, there were several who were searching for the old without knowing that I was the author. It was funny for me, because I did listen to all the comments.
But I wonder how complicated that got at the beginning, because presumably if you needed to publicise the book and the treasure hunt, you had to do publicity, but you couldn't do that under your real name, and you probably couldn't really appear on lots of television and radio, could you?
Each time I passed on TV, they blurred my face.
Really?
Oh, yes, yes. They even blurred my voice.
Really?
Which was stupid. I said, stop it. And
would you like the owl to be found, Max, and found
yes,
quite soon?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You can imagine. I mean, 14 years. It's 12 too much.
And why not just give out a couple of easier clues now?
That's difficult because some people have done a lot of hard work and they are more advanced than others, and if I give some clues, they will be frustrated and saying, you give away clues, we have to work like mad on it for 14 years and the newcomers now have additional clues. That's not fair.
I'm feeling lucky at the moment, Max. I may go to France and just start digging myself. Any particular part of France maybe I should be looking at?
I can't tell you, sorry.
Really?
Good try.
You can't narrow it down even just a tiny bit.
It's 100 kilometers away from the seaside.
Okay.
So you can dig holes wherever you want within this space.
I'll set aside a couple of years.
I wonder, personally, I wonder why it hasn't been found.
Yeah.
For me, it's incredible.
You can go to our website if you want to know more about trying to find Max's owl. You're not convinced, Nitin, are you? You think there's a very good reason why it hasn't been found.
Well, I just think, why would you actually bother to well, you made a very good point just now where you were saying it would boost his next book sales massively if it was found.
The next book will do really
well. But I just wonder whether it exists.
Extremely cynical bunch of men. Let's go back to Michael Meadowcroft, our election observer. We've had quite a few texts this morning.